Your top stories this evening sponsored by Courts, bringing value home. Armed gunman shot and killed, attempted to rob a businesswoman. First occupants of new government houses receive keys. Massive housing project announced for various parts of Guyana. And Hindu priest says police wrongfully confiscated his laptop, accused him of harboring criminals. HGP Nightly News begins now. Good evening to our viewers here in Guyana and online. I'm Travis Chase with the Tuesday, August 29 edition of the HGP Nightly News. Here's what you need to know this evening. We begin our broadcast this evening with good news. Housing Minister Valerie Patterson-Yearwood has announced a massive housing drive, which will benefit thousands of families nationwide. In the meantime, the minister handed over keys to the first set of beneficiaries of the government's housing project, some of whom have been waiting decades for lands. Rawdon James reports.
No more rent was the chant of the first beneficiaries of the government housing drive. Some of the persons who received their keys on Tuesday were in the system of the Central Housing and Planning Authority as far back as 1993. The first two persons to be handed their keys were 46-year-old Deborah Wilson, who will be sharing this duplex seen here with her neighbor Winston Prasad. Mr. Prasad expressed elation to be the owner of his own home.
Can't wait for the day when I'll be moving in. And I can say it's my own home. I don't have to rent anymore.
Minister with responsibility for housing, Valerie Patterson-Yearwood, announced that 40 additional duplexes would be constructed. She says the CHNPA is currently awaiting that contract to be signed. That project is expected to cost 530 million Guyana dollars and is also expected to conclude by the end of this year.
Each apartment would be a total of $7.1 million, 6.8 being the cost of the apartment and $300,000 being the cost of the land.
The minister noted that an additional 23-bedroom houses are in the process of construction in the Perseverance community. Those are for persons who are not desirous of owning the duplexes, the minister stated.
The people are not desirous of duplexes. So we have to do a lot of education and so on. So for now, for this period, we are going to do single houses. But we are not giving up on the duplex program because we know the benefits to us to have a program like this.
It is the hope of Minister Yearwood that these communities and the villages which are being constructed by the CHNPA are kept at a certain minimum standard.
The highest standard possible. We have put in our clause that the homeowners cannot do any adjustment to the home until after 5 years. We expect them to keep the houses looking good, to keep their surrounding, because this is now their responsibility.
The minister announced too that on September 5th and 6th, the Central Housing and Planning Authority will be registering persons who are mindful of owning the 40 duplexes. Once persons show up and are interested, they will be issued with pre-qualified letters to take to the bank for financing. Rawdon James, HGP Nightly News.
Thank you, Rawdon. Georgetown's Mayor Patricia Chase Green is not optimistic that the $300 million owed to two large sanitation companies will be paid anytime soon. Jeffon Vickery reports.
Last month, Puran Brothers Disposal Services and Sevon's Waste Management discontinued their services to the city and protested the non-payment of monies owed to them by the Georgetown Mayor and City Council since 2015. This is the second time both waste management units suspended their services because of City Hall's indebtedness to them. After the previous withdrawal, the companies and City Hall had reached an agreement for a $45 million payout, but that has not been the case this time around. Mayor of Georgetown, Patricia Chase Green, when questioned by Nightly News a month after the suspension, said there might not be an amicable solution to the problem anytime soon.
Presently, we are coping with the situation. We are trying to keep our heads above water. We have been managing so far with the small contractors. We are still looking at ways and means of how we can find that $300 million, and there's no way in the horizon I'm seeing it coming from anywhere. And so we're still hoping that the contractors can really sit with us and let us deal with it.
Mayor Chase Green noted that there were many attempts to raise the monies owed, one of which was a request for a $600 million bailout, which was also not granted.
And that was to pay for the contractors and other contractors that we would have contracted over the period of time to do the cleaning up in 2015, 2016. Until now, we are still doing. Presently, we still have contractors who are working. The cemetery needs cleaning. We are looking at how best we can do it. There is a lot of work that if anyone take the time to really seriously sit down and look at the expenses that the council has to maintain a healthy city as to the income that we are getting, and persons are not paying their taxes on time.
The mayor further lamented that with millions being spent on anti-dumping and cleaning campaigns, citizens, especially those in the business community, continue to disregard City Hall's efforts.
There are some persons within society who just think that it can be lawless and continue to dump garbage idly. If the truck didn't come today, they just bring it and dump it outside Mandela Avenue, outside Main Street, outside some prominent places by Parliament Building and all of that to get attention. We are hoping that good sense will prevail with some of those persons.
Javon Vickery, HGP Nightly News.
You're watching the HGP Nightly News. Under police blotter, an ex-prison officer was shot dead during a foiled robbery Tuesday. He was no stranger to the police. Here's more. A security escort Tuesday morning shot and killed an armed bandit who police say had been trailing their intended target. Another suspected bandit was shot and injured. He's presently under guard at the GPHC. The shooting death occurred at Lillian Dal on the east coast of Demerara. Nightly News learned Tuesday afternoon that the slain gunman was identified as Troyburn Monroe, an ex-prison officer. Nightly News reached out to the Director of Prisons, Mr. Gladwin Samuels, to confirm that Monroe had been in the employ of the prison service. Samuels spoke with Nightly News via telephone.
Troyburn Monroe was a member of the Ghana Prison Service. He joined the Ghana Prison Service on August 13, 2012. However, he was dismissed from the Ghana Prison Service on March 1st, 2017. His dismissal came as a result of his habitual absence from duty and other infringement he would have committed during his period of employment with the Ghana Prison Service. However, specifically leading to his dismissal, he would have been absent from duty. Being assigned to the Mazuni prison, he left the location with permission. He traveled to Borbies where he reported sick. He failed to submit a medical. A letter of instruction was sent to his residence for him to report to the officer in charge in New Amsterdam prison, which he did not comply with. And a few days later, he was observed by a senior officer from the Mazuni prison who was visiting New Amsterdam. That report was submitted, and the recommendation was made to the ministry for his dismissal.
It is the police story that an Interior Flight Services supervisor and her armed security escort went to Ogle Airport in a motor car driven by the supervisor and collected several parcels. And as they were returning to Georgetown using the railway embankment, a dark-colored motor car blocked their path, and immediately 2 males exited the vehicle, brandishing firearms and pounced on them. It was then that the armed escort opened fire and instantly killed Monroe. Monroe's accomplice fled the scene on foot since the vehicle that brought them sped away. The Director of Prisons confirmed that the prison service had been in receipt of numerous reports of Monroe being involved in criminality. Are you surprised by what happened to him today?
Following his dismissal, we had reports that he was actually involved in such activities. Staff members who are aware of him and his growing up would have indicated that he had a brother who died in similar circumstances. So I heard Rank saying today that they're not surprised that he actually ventured into that field. A few months ago, based on a Facebook article that I noticed when 4 guys were arrested in possession of, I think it was unlicensed firearm when they were in a car. I recognize him as one of the persons in the photographs.
Investigators reported that they found a .32 pistol with 3 live matching rounds next to the body of Monroe. The investigation continues. Travis Chase, HGP Nightly News. A Hindu priest is leveling complaints against police ranks on the East Coast for accusing him of harboring criminals and seizing his laptops. Kristen Macklingam reports.
A Lusiknan Hindu priest, Krishanan, is alleging that 3 weeks ago a party of policemen visited his home and accused him of harboring fugitives. He relayed that in the process, the policemen seized his laptop, stating that there was vital information concealed on the hard drive.
He gave an understanding I have hidden information inside. He says, sir, let me tell you, that is my computer, right? Me no know for send message, me no know for type, me no know nothing.
According to Pandit Krishanan, his grandchildren use the same laptop to do their homework and other school assignments. He says he has been back and forth between police stations since the incident occurred in an attempt to locate and retrieve his laptop, but to no avail.
Up to now, I don't know if it's a CID headquarters, I don't know where his laptop is. And watch how much they are running, only for to the angle. And yesterday, because I got the flu, I never go nowhere. But sometime tomorrow, I go back again.
The Pandit added that as a religious person, his home is open to persons from all walks of life when they are seeking spiritual help and guidance. But to date, he has never entertained any known criminals at his temple or house. Meanwhile, Commander of C Division Calvin Brutus told Nightly News that he had spoken with the Hindu priest and notified him of the procedure that must be undertaken with regards to the laptop in question before he can retrieve it by the end of this week.
I told him we make an effort to get it to come back because they have to just go through the laptop to see if indeed the information is accurate or not accurate, and then return the laptop to him. He went to the ministry and I told the minister advisor that as well. And he knows that too.
Reporting for HGP Nightly News, I am Kristen Macklingam.
Thank you, Kristen. Veteran trade unionist Lincoln Lewis appeared before the Lands Commission on Tuesday, seeking the services of the Commission to regain lands bought by his ancestors in the West Berbice area. Let's join Roydin James, who sat through the inquiry.
When the Presidential Commission of Inquiry probing ancestral and other lands continued its work on Tuesday, among the persons to take the stand was long-standing trade unionist Mr. Lincoln Lewis. Mr. Lewis began his testimony by applauding the establishment of the commission before noting that there is never a wrong time to do the right thing. The trade unionist appeared before the commission as a heir of one Kojo McPherson, who he said was his great-great-great-grandfather. Mr. Lewis told the commission that Mr. McPherson bought the villages of Litchfield and Kingley in West Berbice, both of which are transported.
I have in my possession today a copy of the survey commissioned by Kojo, which was conducted by William Chalmers in 1886, and the transport for the village, which show proof of purchase and ownership, which I shall submit to you.
Mr. Lewis appeared before the Commission of Inquiry seeking their services to regain the lands of which the heirs of Kojo McPhersons are not beneficiaries. He told the Commission that because of the period during which his foreparents lived, a will was not made out.
That the absence of such document may have caused others, not of his lineage, to think that it is acceptable to claim land they did not purchase nor could not have inherited. Our submission to this commission is to have this injustice corrected.
The trade unionists explained to the commission that in today's economy, lands are used for several purposes, including the creation of wealth and opportunities, and those that come after their foreparents should be made to enjoy the proceeds of their progenitors' labor.
It is our hope, this notwithstanding, that this commission will seek to right decades of wrong, and the heirs of Kojo McPherson can occupy and utilize their land free from interference and having to be subject to constant threats that violence will be visited on them.
The Commission continues its work on Wednesday. Royden James, HGP Nightly News.
Thank you, Royden. The current container fee of $5,000 is still not enough for City Hall. Mayor Chase Green says it's not helping the Georgetown municipality to do its work. The mayor spoke with Jevon Vickery.
The mayor and city council had demanded in 2016 an increase of the interim $5,000 to $8,000 in fees for a 20-foot container and $10,000 for 40 or 45-foot units. 1 year after, City Hall badly wants the fees to increase, citing that with 2 failed attempts to rake in funds for the council's work, one example being the still suspended parking system project, the current container charge is insufficient. This was raised by Mayor of Georgetown, Patricia Chase Green.
Since earlier this year, when the Private Sector Commission and the Chamber of Commerce complained that they think the $25,000 we were getting here and there was too much, that we should sit to the table and determine the way forward. And then when we would have agreed as a tri-party committee that in the interim they'll pay $5,000 per container at the wharf and we collect at the end of the month.
The mayor stated that since the interim decision involving City Hall, the Private Sector Commission and the government, the hassle to chase behind businesses for container fees has been alleviated.
Because as long as the container leaves the wharf, it pays the $5,000 to whichever wharf it is leaving, and they pay to us. Previously, we would have been going from container to container. If we see a container, and then is when they started to offload at night. But we have no fear for that now. As long as the container leaves the wharf, we get that $5,000.
The business community were up in arms over the $25,000 container fee previously charged by City Hall. The private sector then resorted to the courts, accusing the MNCC of illegally implementing such a fee, and the courts had ruled in the favor of the business community. Jevon Vickery, HGP Nightly News.
Thank you, Jevon. Many Tushaus have complained that the allocation granted to them by the government is insufficient to execute their programs and plans. However, they must learn to stretch the dollar, says the Minister of Indigenous Peoples Affairs. Here's Kristen Macklingam with more.
The Ministry of Indigenous Peoples Affairs is responsible for lobbying for funds for the National Tushaus Council, but has not been successful at getting the amounts requested. However, this should not prevent the Tushaus from doing their jobs, says Minister of Indigenous Peoples Affairs Sidney Alicock.
We have not been able to get the funding that was requested, so we had to make do with what we have. That's the ministry and the NTC. Instead of being aware and conscious and willing as leaders to stretch the dollar, they prefer to sit and complain.
He stated that the fruit is ripe for the picking with regards to Indigenous folks bettering their lifestyles with the push from this government, but that they must be willing to do their part.
We, as Indigenous peoples, have a role to play in national development. And this is the best time. There was never a better time than now. You just can't go and say, well, the budget is not enough and I'm going to sit down. If you could find that money and go and do something totally different to what was decided upon, you're not serious.
When asked about the budget request for the NTC not being approved in full, this is what Minister Alicock had to say.
We go there to represent, and sometimes we are not strong enough, or sometimes we just don't have the money. So we can't pretend that there is enough money.
Reporting for HGP Nightly News, I am Kristen Macklingam.
Welcome back. Politics continue to influence decision-making in many communities at the expense of the developmental process in villages. And according to the Minister of Social Cohesion, this is quite evident in the hinterland locations. Here's Kristen Macklingam with more.
There is still a huge gap in attaining social cohesion in Indigenous communities due to politics, and this is stifling the development of Guyana's First Peoples. That's according to Minister of Social Cohesion, Dr. George Norton.
Persons have got their own opinions, their own agenda, and that is not being hidden. It's fully exposed.
Minister Norton explained that it would be wise for leaders in the indigenous villages to put aside their political positions and focus on the improvement of the livelihoods of their villagers.
And it makes no sense speaking about it. We've got to go down there and to meet with them and to let the people at the level of the village recognize that regardless of what government or what political party is in place, that we have got to, first of all, put the village in front and work towards the development of the village and the people, of course.
According to Minister Norton, in any situation where leaders allow politics to influence their decisions, the end results can be catastrophic. And the only way a country like Guyana can progress is if authorities responsible for community development put aside their political differences and practice cohesion. Reporting for HGP Nightly News, I am Kristen McLingham.
150 direct jobs are to be created for Guyanese as an investor prepares to make a $50 million outlay in a bauxite project in Upper Bonasika Creek. Rodin James reports.
Minister of State Joe Harmon recently met with executives of the Canadian Natural Resources Company Forest Bauxite Corporation for an update on their project in Bonasika Creek, opposite Fort Island in the Essequibo River, which is due to commence next year with an investment of approximately $50 million. Chief Executive and the President of the company, Mr. Alan Rohead, expressed his company's jubilation over the signal given by Minister Harmon with regards to the project.
Very satisfying. The purpose of the meeting was to progress the development and construction of our project, our bauxite project in the Sandhills area, and we're very pleased with the progress we made this week.
The company commenced feasibility study on the project since 2008 and has reportedly spent profusely to develop the bauxite resources in the area.
It's a bauxite project. It's been developed now for 8 years, and we've spent $60 million in that time to bring it into production, and we hope to be commencing construction sometime next year.
Production is expected to start 12 months after that time, the chief executive explained. He stressed that this project will provide a number of direct jobs for persons living here.
By the end of next year, if we commence construction, which we think will be the second half of next year, we expect we'll build up to about 150 people during construction, perhaps a bit more, and we'll stay at about 150 constant after that.
In a statement issued to the media by the Ministry of the Presidency, Minister Harmon said that the government welcomes the investors and looks forward to the employment opportunities which will be created for Guyanese. Royden James, HGP Nightly News.
Good evening. I'm Stanford Howard with the 8GP Sportscast. We tell you now in the cricket arena. West Indies beat England by 5 wickets in the second test to level the series 1-all. The visitors chased down 322 in the fourth innings to claim their first test win in England since 2000. On the fifth day of the second test match, West Indies completed a remarkable turnaround against England, as Shai Hope and Craig Brathwaite led their team to a historic win at Headingley, chasing 322 for a win. Hope and Craig Brathwaite made sure West Indies did not lose too many early wickets on day 5. They posted a partnership of 144 and their performance at the crease laid the platform for the win. Hope remained unbeaten on 118. Shai Hope rose to the occasion with a second century in a matter of days, which underpinned a monumental victory for West Indies. The 23-year-old became the first person in history to record centuries in both innings of a first-class match at Headingley. But more importantly, his 118 not out in trying circumstances ushered the tourists to a series-level 5-wicket triumph. Hope came to the crease at 53 for 2, but belied his relative inexperience in only his 12th test to put on a match-altering partnership with Craig Brathwaite, while Brathwaite fell 5 runs short of pipping his partner to become the first person to record twin centuries at this ground. He was unable to see the tourists home under gloomy skies with the floodlights on in a nerve-jangling finish, with all 4 results possible heading into the final session. It is quite a turnaround from the West Indies following an innings and 209 runs in the first test. A defeat that left many former players bemoaning the current setup, but they have silenced their critics in the most emphatic fashion, having bossed the majority of this test. More in cricket, the Guyana Under-19 cricket team on Monday won the Regional 50 Under-19 tournament in St. Kitts and Nevis by defeating the Windward Islands. Colwyn Abrams has the details.
The match, which was played in St. Kitts and Nevis, saw Guyana winning by 6 runs in the final round of the Under-19 50-over tournament to take the title for 2017 after dethroning the Leeward Islands in the 3-day format. The 50 overs tournament was inaugurated in 1998 in Trinidad and Tobago as a replacement for the washed-out 3-day competition. This was Guyana's 4th 50th over title in a row since they dethroned 2013 champs Windwards in 2014 at home, when their 50 over championships winning streak began under skipper Brian Satar. At Warner Park, the Guyanese team had a 91-run opening stand between the tournament's leading scorers, Raymond Perez 77 and Joshua Prasad 40, after being all out for 217. The Windward Islands were only able to reply with a 211 in 49.4 overs. Emmanuel Stewart hit 48 and Wayne Edwards 43. Bowling for the Guyanese team was Richie Lucknoth, who grabbed a 3 for 31, and off-spinner Bhaskar Yadram 2 for 35. Meanwhile, dethroned champions Trinidad and Tobago defeated the hapless Jamaica by 6 wickets, while Barbados beat the Leeward Islands by 5 wickets. For the HGP Sports, Colwyn Abrams.
Thank you, Colwyn. In domino, Guyana played host to the Goodwill Triangle Domino Series over the past 2 weeks, seeing Antigua being the overall champions. Colwyn Abrams has the details.
The annual event, which was held in the village of Golden Grove, East Coast Demerara, saw teams from Antigua and Barbados taking part. The tournament comprised of 3 test matches and 3 all-female matches. At the end of the playoffs, the Guyana female team, the In Time Girls, came out victorious, followed by the Cody Girls of Antigua and Barbados third. At the end of the general test matches, it was Barbados who reigned supreme, followed by Antigua and Guyana. The Barbados team boasted about their win and plans to come harder next year.
Well, next year we will see, because it will be home at us, so...
you're coming prepared next year?
Yes, that's homegrown.
The MVP of 2017 was Zenas Williams of Antigua. For the HGP Sports, Colwyn Abrams.
Finally, Maria Sharapova stunned Simone Halep on her Grand Slam return, and 19-year-old Naomi Osaka upset defending U.S. Open champion Angelique Kerber at the U.S. Open 2017. It was Sharapova's first appearance at the Grand Slam since she lost to Serena Williams in the 2016 Australian Open quarterfinals. The Russian won 6-4, 4-6, 6-3. Sharapova, 30, was playing her first Grand Slam match since serving a 15-month doping suspension. The 2006 champion and former world #1 needed a wildcard to enter the main draw as she ranked 146. Sharapova returned from her ban in April, but she has struggled with thighs and forearm injuries, playing just once since May, and was also refused a wildcard by the French Open. In another first-round upset, 19-year-old Naomi Osaka of Japan pulled off an upset by defeating defending U.S. Open champion Angelique Kerber of Germany in straight sets 6-3, 6-1. The young and upcoming Osaka came into this year's U.S. Open as number 45 ranked women player in the world, but was hampered by an abdominal injury early this month. Against the number 6 seed Kerber, Osaka looked healthy and was able to blast 22 forehands and backhands winners all over the court in the short 65 minutes affair. For Osaka, this match was sweet revenge after giving up a final set lead against American Madison Keys at last year's Open. The former world #1 struggled with her serve throughout the match and was simply overmatched by Osaka's display of power tennis. That's all we have for tonight's Sportscast. Back to you, Travis.
Armed gunmen shot and killed, attempted to rob a businesswoman. First occupants of new government houses receive keys. Massive housing project announced for various parts of Guyana. And Hindu priest says police wrongfully confiscated his laptop, accused him of harboring criminals. Those were our major headlines. For these stories and more, you can go to our website. It's www.hgptv.com. I'm Travis Chase. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.